A 360-degree assessment is a tool for getting feedback on the same set of competencies from people in your professional orbit. For instance, the subject of the review would choose customers, direct reports, managers, and peers to assess the subject on how well he or she communicates, manages multiple issues, makes critical decisions, and handles many other situations and scenarios. The downside to 360s is that raters, the people who are assessing the subject, are not trained on how to assess people on these competencies. The feedback, therefore, can sometimes be harsh, spiteful, or hard to understand. While the feedback can also sometimes seem contradictory, that can actually be useful in determining perspectives. For instance, it can be interesting to compare why one group in your orbit perceives your development in a given competency one way, while a different group perceives it another way. 360s also vary in quality. Some 360s are overly simplistic. They do not provide appropriate context or guidance for the raters, and the results are so anemic as to be virtually meaningless. They are more akin to frivolous personality tests you might find circulating on social media. They might be kind of fun, but they don't offer any real value for the subject. On the other end of the spectrum are overly cumbersome 360s that are such a slog to complete that raters and subjects alike dread the thought of them. Raters start phoning in their responses just to get the experience over with, or they quit altogether. The results of these heavy-handed 360s are overwhelming, confusing, and typically not particularly useful. It is important for organizations to find or develop their own 360 that strikes a healthy balance between those two extremes. A tool that is comprehensive without being unwieldy, helps the raters and the subjects think critically without making the experience a burden. When done well, the benefit of a 360 assessment is that it provides you with important feedback from the people you work with. It's a structured mechanism to find out where your strengths are and where you have room for improvement. It can be particularly useful as you start developing a plan for your development. It helps you figure out where you want to be professionally. Keep in mind that a 360 is only the starting point. It's not a solution for getting you where you need to be. It's a tool to help you start developing a plan to get you where you need to be. Some organizations use 360 assessments as a performance management tool, sometimes administered in reaction to poor performance and used to gather information used by a supervisor or other people in authority. This is problematic. It can make subjects feel like they have a target on their back. Knowing that people other than the subject will have access to the assessment will influence how raters respond, rather than just giving feedback that will be useful for the subject's development. It may also put the subject in an unfair situation with the supervisor when raters provide feedback that is inaccurate, misleading, or simply untrue. Instead, we recommend that 360 assessments are provided solely as a developmental tool to help high performers and high potentials make progress in their careers. In that way, the results of the assessment should be given only to the subject. We also highly recommend that subjects receive a formal debrief along with the results. The assessments can be a little difficult to digest or come to terms with. It's important that a subject have a trained professional help them process the information so that the subjects can form an explicit development plan based on the results. The bottom line, 360s can sometimes do more damage than good if used the wrong way. But if done right and used for the right reasons, it can have a powerful, positive impact.